Welcome back, everybody, to episode 6 of the Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk Network. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Big show planned for today. Hopefully won't be as long as our last one. We went on to some big tangents.
Yeah.
Last one. This one will be probably a little shorter, sweeter, hopefully. Now that I say it, will probably be longer, but
that always works out.
Yeah. So before we get going, just want to remind everybody, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us out, especially if you get the all notifications. That way, any episode we put up on YouTube, you'll get a notification that we put a show out there. Please like the videos, and we would really love to start hearing comments from everybody. This is a passion of ours, and we would really like to start really interacting with people that are watching the show. We've gained a few more subscribers, so that's good.
Thank you.
We are very appreciative of that, and we just want to keep on growing. This will also, this version audio will be out on the podcast networks, so follow us out there. We're on most of the big ones right now. Stitcher, Apple, Spotify, with a few others. So follow us where you see us. If they ask you for comments, give us comments. If they ask you to rate the show, please rate the show. We would love, the highest ratings possible. All that stuff helps us out. But comments are a big thing. Even if you don't like something, please let us know. We'd like to hear it. If it's something we have to fix, we'll fix. If it's a disagreement, well, we love discussing disagreements with people.
Sure.
So, John, how are you doing today?
Good, Mike. It's Saturday in the fall. It's a beautiful day, so it's exciting. Of course, no Saturday in the fall is complete without Ohio State football, so we're supposed to be pre-gaming for an Oregon game today. So that's really disappointing because we're supposed to, be looking forward to that game. That was the big game, the big early game of the year. So I was really juiced about that going into the season. We know that didn't work out, and here we are with no football for either of those teams. So, yeah, nice, beautiful day. Glad to have football back in the fall, but still incomplete.
Yeah, we should have been starting our pregame. Well, we should have been starting our Saturday pregame show last week, but this one would have been a big one this week.
This would have been a big one.
So, right now we're still pushing forward. We'll kind of get into a little bit of what's going on right now as the Big Ten turns, as the world turns in the Big Ten.
Right.
In a little bit. Just want to kind of hit on a couple news things real quick. Before we get to the Wyatt Davis news, last episode we meant to mention this, but we kind of got off track on a couple of the things we were talking about. We were very passionate about some of the stuff that was going on,
yes.
But Ryan Shazier last week did announce his retirement from the NFL. He suffered a horrific injury, but the fact that he's really bounced back a lot. He's walking. He started walking a lot sooner than a lot of people felt he could.
Remember the YouTube video? Doesn't he do a squat jump?
Yeah.
Or a box jump? Yeah.
It's just amazing the recovery process that he has. But and the sad, in the profession of football, the sad thing is, he was never going to be able to make the type of recovery he needed to be able to play football again. I think everybody knew that in the back of their minds. I know he kind of held out hope. Dude was a gamer, competitor, and it's, in our Sunday lives, we're Browns fans here in Northeast Ohio. Don't hold that against us, anybody, please. That's our
glutton for punishment.
But he was drafted by the Steelers, and typical of the Steelers, unlike the Browns, they've never had a problem drafting Buckeyes over their lives. So
they like Ohio State at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so he was a bane in our side for as Browns fans, but I always respected the dude for what he did at Ohio State. Your thoughts?
Absolute gamer, always has been, hell of a player for the Steelers. I just can remember a couple times for Ohio State. One sticks out to me, that freshman year of his against Michigan. We lose the game, but isn't that when he has like a torn knee?
Yeah.
He had a partially torn knee and he's still playing. He obviously is affected. They probably shouldn't have even had him in there. That 2011 team, though, what else could they have done? You guys know the rest of that. But yeah, always a gamer. I remember, that last week's episode on the Labor Day special, you and I were doing our defensive plays from 2012, and I completely forgot, I don't know how, that goal line stuff against Monty Ball that he forces that fumble against Wisconsin. So the guy, and if you remember, I think he was like bleeding after that hit or something. I mean, but he could have had a concussion after that hit he had, and he still stayed in the game. So Ryan Shazier was a hell of a player. He's a gamer. He was a great pickup for the Steelers. Terrible how it ended with injury, and I think in the back of my mind, I always knew that he wasn't going to be able to recover from that to play in the NFL again. But I know, from what I know of Ryan Shazier, I knew he was going to try his hardest to be able to play again. So he tried, wasn't able to. I mean, that's understandable, and that's okay. I always appreciated watching him. He was probably the best outside linebacker that I recall in recent memory at Ohio State. So definitely love watching the guy. I wish him nothing but the best in, the next part of his life.
Yeah. It's kind of, a lot of people don't know this. It's kind of funny, a little ironic how we ended up getting him in Ohio State. He was originally committed to Florida, or was he fully committed, or was he about to commit, or was they the high lean? I don't remember how necessarily that went. I thought he was fully committed to Florida. But he decommitted he decided, or Florida was no longer an option after Urban Meyer quit.
After he had left Florida, yeah.
Picks Ohio State to only have Jim Tressel retire, a couple months later, and then he ends up still playing for Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. That's one of the funnier things, but yeah, he got to play for Urban. Again, hell of a player. Gonna miss watching him, but it's nice, being who we're fans for, see him out of that black and gold. So
yeah. So that was the Shazier news. Big news yesterday. Wyatt Davis has decided to opt out of the season. Right now there is no season, so it's not it's not a surprise. Very easily, depending on what happens this weekend, it's most likely the first domino to fall.
Yeah.
But I mean, we kind of expected that if things didn't change soon, that this was going to start happening.
Right.
Wyatt, hell of a player. I mean, I was looking yesterday at some of the blocks that he's had that people were posting on Twitter, and I mean, the fact that he was named to an all-decade team for the Big Ten before he has even a chance to leave. I mean, he proved it a couple years ago at the Rose Bowl. I mean, the dude's a freak.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just honestly talk about his Ohio State career here. So, he should have started in 18. He didn't. I don't want to get into that. That was just I think that was a poor coaching decision because they gave a guy that might have been a little bit better in, preseason practice. They left. 18 was such a weird year anyways, but they left a guy in there that they probably should have went with the younger guy to get him those meaningful snaps. But he starts a Big Ten championship, he starts a Rose Bowl, and he starts one season. He's named to the Big Ten all-decade team from that body of work. So, I mean, you cannot watch a snap of the guy and you can just imagine the dominance he had on the field to be able to be named to the all-decade team.
Yeah, I was watching some videos of him yesterday. I mean, he hit a block. I mean, he knocked this dude off the ball, runs up, takes on the linebacker, notices the guy that he originally blocks is coming back. He disengages from the linebacker, knocks that guy on his butt.
Well, that's the type of offensive lineman you love, too. Someone he has that motor, he never stops, he keeps going until everyone's on the ground and he can keep them on the ground. He always made sure that he, did his best to take his guys out of the play. So, yeah, he was awesome. It's hard to, watch him leave, especially hearing what he had to say, just how heartbreaking the decision was. Lack of communication from the Big Ten is what ultimately drove it. That it just seemed like it was getting further and further away and it wasn't going to happen. So, hate to see it. We kind of, like you said, we kind of knew it was going to happen. Maybe first of a couple dominoes to fall, hopefully not, but there's definitely some other people that once they see one go, they're going to start weighing that option.
And we'll get into here in just one or two more things on Davis. He gave a lot of praise to both Ryan Day basically said he loved Ryan Day for just how hard Coach Day fought for them.
Absolutely.
Gave a lot of praise to Gene too. He said both of them tried everything they could to get them to play. I hope that he didn't jump the gun here. He might have, but at the end of the day, I don't know. Even if they decide today, tomorrow, Monday, or whatever that they are going to have a season here mid-October, I can't blame these guys anymore. I mean, they've been waiting
too long.
Yeah.
Waiting too long, and if you're pushing it back to October, I mean, you don't know. Like, you might not even get a game in if you're pushing it back to October. I think it's safe to say that the ACC, Big 12, SEC, they're at least going to get a couple games to where they're starting, but we're already seeing, games getting pushed back, delayed, postponed, however you want to say it, because of, COVID flare-ups at the school, or within the team. So, yeah, if that's already happening, and sometimes you got to look at that and say, even if it gets pushed back, till mid-October, we still might not kick off. So even though we get good news tomorrow, that could be bad news in a week. We've already seen this. They gave a schedule, and then 6 days later, they took it away. So I don't fault anybody. The Big Ten's dragged their feet way too long on this. So I mean, kudos to him. It was a good decision. I hate that he's not going to play for us this year if we do have a season, but you got to do what's best for yourself.
I think we brought up either in episode 1 or 2 who would be the first to go if.
I thought it would be Sean.
Yeah, I think that's what
I thought it was going to be Shaun Wade. I thought Wyatt would be the last to go. I thought he was the one that had the most to gain from still, putting film out there. So I didn't expect that, but I mean, it does make sense. If you're projected to be a first-round guard, if you don't know if you're going to play, you might as well start getting ready for the draft now.
And I saw a couple draft experts. I think I saw Dwayne Bugler and a couple of the NFL scouts that are on Twitter say that he's still a first-rounder.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the dude's still going either first round, mid to late first round,
or
early second
top
round.
5 picks in the second round, I would guess.
He's
barring any sort of injury or
he's the best guard on the board. I mean, guards, and just by nature, I mean, it's very hard for a guard to get up into the top 10, top 15 to begin with.
You don't see that often. You got to be a very special talent.
Yeah, so I don't think he'll get there, especially without playing this year. But I mean, the dude's still gonna get drafted extremely high. I mean, he's still going to make a boatload of cash. So, I mean...
Well, it all comes down to who's drafting, too. At the end of the day, it comes down to who's where, what their weaknesses are. So, you might have a team that seems like they're in a good position. Maybe they had some sort of devastating injury that they, lost a lot of games because of that. Maybe a quarterback gets hurt and they don't bounce back, and their top drafting now much higher than they were supposed to be, and maybe what could have helped them is shoring up that offensive line a little bit. So anything could happen in the NFL to, drive that pickup.
I don't know off the top of my head a lot of their offensive linemen out there, but as a Browns fan, this has a Ravens or Steelers draft pick written all over it, a mid to late first rounder. Yeah.
I'm sure the Browns could use some help on the line, so if you guys can get Wyatt Davis, it's not a bad move.
Yeah. So we were maybe a little off who was the first to go, but so we don't get any change this weekend. Who's next at this point? Is it Wade or is it Fields?
I think it's Shaun Wade still. I think Justin Fields is going to hold out the longest. He still seems kind of all in for the season. Not that Shaun Wade isn't, so I don't want to mislead anybody saying that Shaun Wade isn't.
And Wyatt definitely was all in for the season. I mean, if this was...
They want to play. They want to win a national championship. So I'm not... And of course, Shaun, the only reason he really came... Well, outside of the national title, Shaun Wade wants to prove that he could be the man at that outside corner, that he doesn't need to be the inside cornerback. So or slot cornerback. So he's definitely, he has so much to gain from playing a season, but I think he would be the next one that Big Ten keeps playing games that he'll be out soon.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with that. I do think it's Shaun, but I mean, we'll see. Like I said, if depending on what happens this weekend, I don't think Wyatt was the first one, and they could be told tomorrow that they are going to be playing here on October 10th or the 17th. Most likely at this point, it'll be the 17th, probably is the earliest date, and Shaun could still opt out. I don't think at that point Justin would opt out. But, I mean, I don't know. Shaun might decide to opt out still. I mean, that's his decision. I'm never gonna. I'm not the type of person, and neither one of us are at this point. Maybe our younger selves would have been one of those guys. This is the team and all that stuff. But I mean, I look at this as much more. It's a business, and
Right, and that's how I feel too. That these guys, they got to do what's best for them. They're trying to make millions of dollars. I understand, and we see it from Ohio State guys all the time. The brotherhood means so much to them. I would never question these guys that leave early. I would never question their loyalty, to their teammates. So that kind of reminds me of just what you're saying, like Nick Bosa a couple of years ago, that he got hurt in that third week, and people were complaining that he opted out and he started focusing on the draft, and he wasn't there on the sidelines for his teammates, didn't play at the end there if he could have came back. What's the guy supposed to do? I mean, he got drafted number 2 overall, I think. 2 or 3. I think it's 2 because I think Joey went 3 and he went 2.
Yeah.
So he went number 2 overall. Like, what's the guy supposed to do? That was the best decision for his life, was to get ready for the draft. I can't fault him for that. So.
And
that stuff irritates me so much.
Just like I went to college to be able to get a career someday. You went to college to get a career someday. These guys are going to college to get a career, and their career is the NFL. So I mean, that's life, and that's kind of how I've always looked at it.
Yeah,
so,
I absolutely 100% agree with that statement.
Yeah. I definitely think he would be here if there was much more. If there was an idea for sure.
If there was clarity lined out here, I think he would be here. Or the decision might have been made weeks ago if they said you guys aren't playing until January. But
so I mean, he made his decision. Wish him the best of luck. He's going to be playing in the league next year, and
gamer.
Look forward to watching him. Hopefully it's for the Browns, but if not, I'm gonna
stay out of the AFC North if it's not for the Browns.
I'm gonna appreciate. I'll like if it even is the AFC North, I'll respect him as a player, but I don't want to see another Cam Hayward or Ryan Shazier or what I'm thinking Dobbins is going to do this year.
Cam Hayward, didn't he just sign a huge contract extension last week or the week before?
Buckeyes keep getting paid in this league.
I mean, we're talking a decade now.
Yeah, I mean that's
good for him.
Gamer.
Yeah. So my final thoughts on Wyatt, though, going to be a multi-time All-Pro in the NFL. The guy has it written all over him.
Oh yeah, he's the next big. He's that offensive guard you get to plug in, and he's on your team for the next 10 to 15 years.
Many big contracts for Wyatt Davis.
Yeah. All right, so today is the 12th. It's a Saturday, and we've had college football back for a couple weeks. High school's been back for a few weeks, but football back now. We got
You got the NFL back too.
Yeah, NFL started on Thursday, but tomorrow we got NFL games. Today, 2 of the Power 5 conferences kick off. I mean, I know Miami started on Thursday, but I mean, ACC and Big 12's back.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Excited. I'm ready to watch some real football. I'm ready to have a full day of footballs, starting noon on a Saturday, going all the way till nighttime. So I am very pumped up for this. Everyone knows I hate that the Buckeyes aren't playing. I say it every week, though. So let's try to keep it positive. We are going to get football. And you got some big teams back. Top 25 teams are finally playing. So I'm very happy about that, because that's kind of been my holdup so far is, I'm happy football's back. Of course, discouraged, like I said, but you haven't had good teams playing yet. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen, what these teams look like, what it's like for these actual bigger teams with, less capacity crowds, no capacity crowds, how they're playing in these situations, if they look as sharp as we usually see them. There's so much just intrigue about this season. I know it sucks also, but I was thinking about this last night. I'm laying there in bed. Of course, you're laying in bed on a Saturday or Friday night and you're thinking about college football games. Like, come on, how lame can that be? But what if Trevor Lawrence gets COVID or gets contact traced for COVID that he's not allowed to play for a week and Clemson loses that game? Does that take them out of the playoff? Do they get the benefit of the doubt? Or Clemson, are teams like that, are they just in the playoff? What if that happens multiple times? What if you lose 2 games because your quarterback's out? does the committee say, well, if you're only good because your quarterback's in there, you don't deserve to be in? I just think there's so many different variables at play right now that it's very exciting. But yeah, so I'm excited to see some good games. We get to see, of course, Trevor Lawrence play again tonight. The guy is a hell of a quarterback, probably your future number one pick. If Justin Fields doesn't get to play this year, definitely the Heisman frontrunner. Spencer Rattler is going to start off his career at Oklahoma. You know what Lincoln Riley does with those Oklahoma quarterbacks, so that guy is just destined to have 50 passing touchdowns or, some sort of magnificence. Yeah. He's probably number 2 in the Heisman. And then UNC, they're a team that I'm really looking forward to seeing what Mac does with them this year. I know they're kicking off today. I don't remember who it's against. Maybe Syracuse?
I think it is Syracuse.
I feel like it's Syracuse.
It's a noon game. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's Syracuse. So they're one that I think, could really compete, though, this year in the ACC. So it's also exciting.
I think because of the Notre Dame's playing Duke today.
The Irish.
I think the Notre Dame's entry with Mac, kind of what he's done in recruiting. And, I know there's a lot of Texas fans that didn't like how Mac's career ended in Texas, but the guy won a lot more games than he lost there. And I don't know. I think now with Mac kind of getting that team at, they're in place and Notre Dame being in the league for a year, it'll be kind of interesting to see Clemson. Clemson's going to have a couple of real games this year.
I mean, Clemson...
They're playing Notre Dame. They are playing Notre Dame. Are they playing North Carolina?
No, I think North Carolina I think they got taken off their schedule when they redid everything.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that they got taken off their schedule. So Clemson, what I'm interested with Clemson, though, is when you start seeing, your North Carolinas with Mac Brown, because he has a good recruiting class right now, assuming that he can keep that. When those kids start developing, you can tell that he had his guys kind of on the right track last year. So when those guys start developing, and then, what can he do? If Notre Dame, they are picking up more games in the ACC, so what's that going to look like in the future for Clemson? Florida State, Miami, I think everyone's been saying it for years now. Those schools are destined to be back, though. So I don't want to say, Clemson, Dabo's done a hell of a job with them. So I don't want to say that they have, an expiration date on that success, but it's going to start getting more competitive for them. I truly believe that one of these days it's going to get more competitive for Clemson in that conference.
Yeah. Clemson's definitely, they're definitely the front runner, but, they play Notre Dame on the 7th of November. That's an interesting game.
That should be a good one. I've seen...
And it's in South Bend, so...
I've seen Notre Dame go into those games a lot of times, undefeated or hyped up and get their asses kicked. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if that happened against Clemson, but when did you say it was?
I believe it's November 7th, so...
In South Bend?
Yeah.
That could be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly, for as much as I give Notre Dame a hard time, that guy's actually done a really good job there.
He has, and, he's definitely, he's brought them back to where they were, he's brought Notre Dame back to where they should be. Like, I've always heard the built-in excuses from some Notre Dame fans that, they always try to argue why, we have to, we're an academic school and you guys can't, we can't let just anybody in like some of you schools can do. But
don't you hear the same? Isn't it very funny how Michigan and Notre Dame fans, they're just you just switch the hat on top of their head, but you hear the same damn thing from both of them?
Yeah. The one thing I will say about Notre Dame is, you're a Catholic school. We're from Ohio. I know how good Catholic parochial football is in the state of Ohio. I know how good parochial football is in California. I know how good parochial football is in Florida. Some of the best, New Jersey with Don Brasco Prep, some of the best high schools in the country are Catholic high schools. So Notre Dame has a built-in advantage on that alone.
Right, so they like to go there. And especially, you and I both know what the situation is with parochial schools, too. There's a lot of kids that wouldn't be going there if it wasn't for their athletics. So that gives that pipeline to Notre Dame as well. Because, those kids are getting good education. So most of them are, eligible as far as grades go.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've always argued that little built-in excuse because besides the Deep South and Texas, there's Catholic parochial schools dominate a lot of the states, especially the big states.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of big Catholic high schools in Pennsylvania, of course. I mean, Ohio, and you think about the big Cleveland Catholic schools, Hoban, and then the Cincinnati ones. I mean, there's a lot of Catholic powerhouses in this country.
Yeah, and Notre Dame, they
have
that built-in pipeline, and they get a lot of interest from those kids.
Mater Dei and LaSalle out in California, St. Thomas Aquinas down in Florida. So there's some of the biggest high schools, the top. They're always in the USA Today top 20, top 50 for high schools. They're the parochial schools.
Yeah, so I mean, I give a lot of grief to Notre Dame fans though, but I honestly, Brian Kelly, they are nowhere near underachieving at Notre Dame with him. He's gotten that team back to where they need. I mean, they're still mismatched when they get into bigger games. We've seen it. I mean, look at what's it go back to when Oregon State smashed them.
Yeah.
And then it was Ohio State got them.
05.
Alabama got them.
Ohio State.
I think maybe an LSU in there.
Yeah,
Clemson beat the crap out of them. So if they could get a big win in one of those postseason marquee matchups, that would definitely go a long way for them. But they've been good. Brian Kelly's been good.
I mean, a few years ago, they almost beat Clemson in Death Valley when they were on.
That's when was that the pick, or am I thinking of a different game?
Yeah, that is the pick, and they called the playback.
Yeah,
or they called the penalty, and
was that the Admiral's son?
Yeah, maybe it was.
Because his David Robinson's son, and I don't mean to be disrespectful that I don't know his first name, but he was the tight end for Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I think he might be the one called for that.
Yeah, I think he was.
Or he got the touchdown. He's in that play. I know that.
Yeah. So, so Oklahoma's starting today. Clemson starting today. Notre Dame starting today. You got Florida State, Georgia Tech. Both are unranked, but I think that could be a fun game to watch.
Like I said, it's only a matter of time before those teams get back to being somewhat relevant. So again, not an expiration date for Clemson, but it is going to start getting more competitive one of these years.
Yeah. So. Definitely looking forward to watching some games this week, and hopefully, and then on the next episode, we'll actually get to talk about some of the.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
So kind of break up some of this crap. I know a lot of Buckeye fans probably don't want to hear it, but it is good to watch football. Before we get into the ESPN story from last night, I've heard a lot of people talking about October 10th, October 17th, they have to have a 10-game schedule and all that. And I've disagreed with that point. To me, it's always been December 19th. That is the actual day. You got to have a comparable football schedule up to that point because the committee picks on the 20th. The reason why I've always said that is because, first of all, committee, they've proven since the Buckeyes won the national title in 2014, they make up their own rules.
There is no criteria.
It's every year it's like something different. I've heard 4 best teams. I've heard 4 most deserving teams. I've seen conference championships mean everything to conference championships don't mean it. They're only a tiebreaker if the teams are even. And so I mean, we've heard every excuse in the book. Was it 18 or 17 when they the chairman came out the week before the final vote and they said, well, Ohio State's right there, and then it was like, well, they didn't. They
had 2 losses. They were never really considered.
Yeah, they were never considered. So they just come up stuff. So that's you take that into consideration. This is a weird season because of COVID and the pandemic, and so now they have a built-in excuse why it's a weird season, and then on top of that, why the Big Ten is being stupid and why Ohio State should be playing is because, in my opinion, I think a lot of these teams will probably have postponed games. I could very easily see this year a Clemson or an Alabama or somebody getting in with only 7 wins possibly because, a couple games get called because, there's an outbreak or something. And so that's why you need to try to play because I think that a lot of this stuff is not going to matter. As long as you have a comparable schedule to everybody else. And that's just been my thought on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. We talked about this last time that Ohio State, in the Big Ten, they put themselves in a real bind by doing what they did, because if you get to the point that you lose, 1, 2 games, not physically lost, like you lost it off your schedule, then I think that's a spot where they're like, Clemson played 8, Ohio State played 6. Clemson played 9, Ohio State played 6. Something like that, that's not really, even though your body of work that you might have beat, the Michigans out there, you might have beat Iowa, Penn State, hopefully, you get good games in there. And I would hope that if you're going to go into a crunch like that, they would say, all right, we got to get the best games possible on paper to give someone a legitimate chance to impress somebody. But if that's, if you're losing games off your schedule, though, I just think that's something that they are going to look at, because, like you said, we don't know what the hell the committee ever thinks when they make these decisions. So that's just something that scares me.
But I don't think the argument's going to be between Ohio State and Clemson.
No, and I'm not using that. So I guess maybe that is a bad example. But what I'm saying is that Ohio State, you might have some team that overachieves in the SEC. That you might have someone else sitting there in the SEC that only has one loss, like a Georgia or a Florida. They're supposed to have, both of them are supposed to have good years this year. So you might see then that other team that's like, well, they only lost 1 game to Alabama and they played 9 games. Ohio State went undefeated, but they only played 6. So, there was a lot more time there. It wasn't a traditional season by either one, but it was much more close to being a traditional season by Georgia. That's something that scares me. An undefeated Ohio State, though, if you do have those top wins on there, I would think that helps them out greatly, even if you only play like a 6-7 game season, which hopefully it's still more than that. The one thing that scares me about that, though, is what happens with the AP poll. Because a lot of times they still reference stuff like that with the committee. Ohio State does have a top 10 win. And I know that you could say they brought in, because the polls kind of get rewritten once the first playoff rankings come out, correct?
Yeah.
So I guess at that point it could all get rewritten that, well, we brought, Michigan back into the top 10, or we brought Penn State back into the top 10. But if they're not kicking off this weekend, are they just like, is the press going to just kick all these teams out of their top 25 poll starting next week?
Yeah. So that's the way I understand it. But here's me getting, and I don't know this for a fact, that this is just my gut feeling on this. Hypothetically, Big Ten kicks off October 17th. So Ohio State will be out of the AP poll next week.
Yes.
They were 20 points, 16 points off from
being number one in the country.
So they will be completely 100% out of the top 25 after this week. October 17th comes, they play, they win. The following AP poll, they are in the top 5. That is my opinion.
Would the AP do it, though? Because they made it sound like they're not going to let people in that don't. I realize that Ohio State's starting at a different time in the fall, so maybe they would.
They are playing in the fall.
Okay.
And they are playing in the fall where they can compete in the playoff. I believe.
So they'll keep them out till they actually play a game.
Yeah. And hell, they might put them back in that first week because of them coming back in, being like, well, Ohio State's playing this week, so that Tuesday prior, I think it's Monday or Tuesday the poll comes out, or Sunday, that week prior to, Ohio State's scheduled to play next week, so they're top 10 team again.
See, that makes me much more comfortable if Ohio State gets back into it. Even though I know the playoff rankings are the only thing that matters, that makes me more comfortable if Ohio State's ranked in one of those other polls. So as long as that situation plays out that, okay, they're kicking off October 17th, it's not, as early as everyone else, but they're still playing in the fall. They're considered for the playoffs, so we're going to let them be back in the AP. I'm fine with that.
And I've seen a lot of people outside the Big Ten who are talking about Ohio State. Some of our rivals that are from other conferences that want us to play. It's funny, a lot of these fan bases who, it's why I do love college football fans, because, I go back and forth with a lot of them on different things over the years.
I talk a lot of smack. I'm not going to lie, I do.
But a lot of them have come out. I've seen things from Bama fans, Georgia fans, Clemson fans that, we want Ohio State playing.
Yeah, I like that. Except I had to go a couple weeks ago with a South Carolina fan. That's like humiliating when you're arguing with a South Carolina fan about who's better, and you can't really win the argument because they keep going back to your conference is scared to play. You're not going to get to play this year. So, I threw every insult in the book at that guy in his program, but I don't think I won the exchange because it's still at the end of the day, they're going to get to play. We don't. I did say that even though we're not going to play this season, we'll still end up higher ranked than South Carolina would.
If I was South Carolina,
that's really the best I have for them.
You're one step below Tennessee fan at this point in your life. So.
A team like that, if you're only playing an SEC schedule, they better hope Vanderbilt's on theirs because who are they going to beat?
Yeah.
Are they going to win a game this year?
Don't know.
Are all SEC? No, SEC's too big. They can't play all teams, right?
Yeah, because I think they're 14 teams.
Are they 14 now?
Yeah, there's 7 in each.
Okay, so they can't play all games. So they better hope they'll play. Well, I don't know. Are they keeping with this year? You're not guaranteed to play your side, are you?
I thought they play all 7 of the teams on their side, or the other 6 teams.
They're still playing all 6 on their side?
4 from the other side.
Okay.
I think that's how it's going.
I wasn't sure if it was like 5 and 5 or just kind of like they drew the names out of a hat.
Yeah.
Coin flip type deal.
I think because they want, obviously they want all those SEC West schools to play each other. So I think that's,
Oh, I guess you would still need that if you're going to have a traditional. Yeah. If you're still having a traditional game at the end for a championship for the conference, I guess you would have to do that. Yeah, that makes sense. That was stupid on my part.
So just kind of like just the thought process of them, I think the committee, even it can't be, Ohio State can't play 5 games, and we're talking about 6 or, probably Ohio State needs to play at minimum 7 games and a conference championship, and they got to go undefeated. They cannot, and then I think some people in this committee are going to reference the point that, they were 20 points away from being first place at the start of the season. It's not their fault. Like, you can understand, back in 2017, 2018, they literally had ammunition to Ohio State and you're lost. I don't know, has Iowa ever scored 55 points on
I don't know if Iowa scored 55 points all of last year.
On a Big Ten team. I'm not talking about when they're playing a Division I AA team. And even that, I don't think they hardly get to 55.
No.
And that's nothing against Iowa. It's just that's
their style game though. They don't put up points like that.
Kirk Ferentz's teams are not built to score 55 points. They are literally pound and grind teams.
I know that was.
They play with 2 tight ends and
humiliating
fullbacks. Yeah. They're not. They're not meant to do that. So they had
that tight end just scored again.
You had 2 losses that year, and one of them was a bad loss to Iowa.
The other one was a bad loss to Oklahoma too.
Yeah, and then the following year you had a bad loss to Purdue, and I've always told Buckeye fans that I feel if they lose to Purdue by less than 7 points, they probably make the playoff.
I would think if you're within 2 scores, so anywhere from 14 down, I think they're in over Oklahoma. That was a weird year though. That was like Ohio's. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was anti-Urban stuff that year, that they didn't want him a part of the playoffs because of what was going on in 18. It was just such a strange year that anything Ohio State did good on offense was never referenced. It was just how bad they were on defense. But then how bad Oklahoma was on defense was never referenced. But how good Oklahoma was when offense was all they talked about.
Yeah, and plus the biggest issue you also had is Gene was on the committee, and you can't be in the room when they're talking about your school. And I think that's stupid of the Big Ten.
You should never play your big dog. The AD from your best team should never be on that committee.
And I'll even say Penn State and Michigan. There should be nobody from any of those schools. No. Wisconsin too. I know, Barry. But you couldn't argue in 2014. You just got shellacked 59-0. I know Barry, from everything I've heard, Barry was a big voice in the room for Ohio State, but his team just got. He's a football guy. His team just got the crap kicked out of him. He saw how good Ohio State was.
Score a point.
So But none of those guys, and I'll even argue Wisconsin too, none of those guys should be on a committee. It should be guys from Purdue and Indiana and Illinois who benefit from Ohio State or Penn State or Wisconsin making the playoff.
Money.
They benefit from that, so they are going to put some sort of. They will at least argue it.
I don't know. I can't trust any of those guys. It seems like they all hate Ohio State.
Well, maybe Nebraska. I think Nebraska would argue for.
I know, but that's a team I hope that. They come back soon, and I hope they end up being,
I do like
a
Scott
top dog
Frost.
in the West.
I do like Scott Frost. I would love to see Wisconsin have more competition.
I love the Nebraska fans.
Yeah.
Those guys are like my best friends now.
Those are our new. That's our.
Those are our drinking buddies.
Yeah. But that's just my feelings on it. I think they got to get some sort of schedule in, and I don't know if Clemson and Alabama are going to get full seasons. And I could see somebody, and it maybe not be their school, but I could see a school that they're playing come down and be like, we can't play this week because, and there's nothing Clemson and Alabama can do about that. And so I think if that starts happening, which I really do think it's going to happen, the committee's going to have to adjust maybe some of their thought process, and they're not going to just be able to say, well, they play 10 games, you need to play 10 games. So they can say, well, they played 9 games, we'll accept 7 games from you.
Right, and the committee's going to have to be the most open-minded this year than they've ever been.
Yeah, so that will also help Ohio State. So they kind of now move into that, why we're still possibly talking about playing October football. ESPN had an article last night. It was wrote from Heather Dinich and Adam Rittenberg, and it's been confirmed by other people. And now all the big guys are, we've been bashing them all along, but now the Athletic has it, Yahoo has it. So it seems like this is legit. This is not some just Ohio State. Even though I've always said I do feel some of the stuff that was coming from Ohio State sources and Big Ten sources, the Sean Callahans of the world, those were legit too.
Yeah.
These people aren't just running out with BS. They're hearing it from somebody that's, and most likely in the athletic department, that, we are working on stuff and we think we're going to have a vote soon. I think now, so basically the Dinich article was that the subcommittee for the return of play, which is made up of different medical experts and athletic directors from around the conference, they're going to present to 8 presidents or chancellors of basically a subcommittee of the presidents and chancellors, the proposals. And they're going to supposedly do it today, which is Saturday the 12th of September.
We'll see.
There's 5 new tests that are rapid tests that are in place now that weren't in place 5 weeks ago. I mean, that's kind of how rapid and fast this is moving, that literally 5 tests that they didn't have 5 weeks ago, they have now. So those are options. These can get results back every day. They would have the results back. So, I mean, some of these are 5-minute tests, some are 15-minute tests, some are a little longer.
All within reason, though.
Yeah, so literally you can test multiple times through the week. You can test everybody that they come in contact with. If somebody does get a positive, and you can keep track of stuff. And basically, if the subcommittee, these 8 chancellors and stuff, like what they hear, they could ask for all 14 teams to come in and retake another vote. So they could also, if they don't like what they hear, they could go back and ask the committee to go back and get more information. So, but at least there's something there that we could actually maybe have some hope. And they did mention that they need 5 weeks for the start, and so that would put them about October 17th. They mentioned a 8-game schedule for everybody, with the 9th game being the conference championship on the 19th.
I like it.
So I think that would give them a bye week in there too, to just in case, if you have to move a game.
So, I mean, I've criticized how the Big Ten's handled this from the beginning. So what I do like, though, is hopefully they've used this time to come up with something that, would ensure that they have correct protocols in place, that you don't have to miss a game. So that might be a benefit to starting in October, is that you got more time to get things figured out. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the SEC teams, if they miss any games or not. So they might be doing everything right there. ACC, Big 12, they all might be doing something right. So who knows if there's any benefit to this. The one thing, though, that I have a little bit of a hold up on, and testing technology, it's great. Obviously, that's a game changer. It's helping this move forward. So if we have 5-minute tests, are we saying that that's being used for game day?
They can test on game day.
So you test in the morning of game day, someone tests positive. I mean, everyone's been. Who hasn't been in contact with the guy? Do you have to forfeit that game for one positive test?
I don't know how that.
And I'm sure that might be the stuff that they would talk about today.
That would have to be how do they do that? But there's that. So you have.
And I don't want to throw negatives in there because I think this is positive, but
Everybody has to have redundancies, so they need to, if they're going to sign one of these things, whether it's the 5-minute ABA test or one of these 15-minute tests, they have to sign another. They have to have something else as a backup.
Yeah.
And because, if they get a positive, first of all, they need to test early in the morning on game day because they need to test that guy again before the game kicks off. And then if it comes back negative the second time around, they have to test them a third time.
Right.
And just to make sure of what it is, because we have seen false positives, throughout this whole thing. So, I mean, there's been how many players now have been returned to, have tested positive, and then you find out, I mean, the NFL just had a huge thing a couple weeks ago with their lab in New Jersey that a bunch of, I think it was 70 people from around the league tested positive, and literally every single one
was a false positive.
So, I mean, that's crazy. So, I mean, you got to be able to retest. So, I don't know.
I guess let's get a season going first, and then we'll worry about this stuff.
That's stuff they had to talk about, and that's another reason why I kind of said that that you have to be open minded to committee on a lot of different things because there's going to be a lot of variables, and
a lot of stuff at play for sure.
And like what you talked about earlier, so maybe Clemson does play all their games, and Ohio State plays 2 or 3 less games to them. But maybe Clemson loses a game because Lawrence wasn't playing. So,
right.
I mean, how does all this stuff get matched against each other? And probably in that situation, both Ohio State and Clemson are.
I would think so. I would think if you lose a game when you're one of the top tier teams, if you lose a game because someone is not there because of COVID, is definitely some sort of game changer. I think that's enough to say, okay, well, they lost because of this guy, and we can give them the benefit of the doubt on that.
Yeah, so...
Now, like I said, if it's multiple times, though, I don't think even with this, you can't give them... You got to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
You lose 2 games because Trevor Lawrence is out. I'm sorry, we can't put you in.
Yeah.
That's just...
Yeah, I'm willing to go. And I mean, I would say the same thing. I mean, they haven't...
I'd say the same for Ohio State.
I mean, this might be the first year they actually have to put a 2-loss team in there. We'll know when we see it, but they have never done it yet. So
we got to get there.
So, I mean... There's some hope to this. I mean, there might actually now be a hope that the Big Ten could be playing. So
yeah, I mean, definitely there's positive vibes from what you're reading there. Because, I mean, I have no confidence in the presidents changing their mind. I still think I'm at 70-30, 60-40 that it's going to come back that they're not playing until...
I hope enough presidents change their minds that we can get a season. And then I hope the compromise really is if a couple schools decide if a couple of the no votes decide they're opting out, I hope they put in place that, you need an opt, so if they vote tomorrow, the 13th, that, all right, we can go forward with a season. I mean, this is just a hypothetical. I would give, I mean, they have to have a schedule out a couple, I mean, everybody can go back to practice starting Monday or Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a schedule in place probably by the next week or 2 after that. So I would give everybody a week. If you don't want to play, you need to let us know.
Yeah.
And then we have to build a schedule around you guys not playing. And if they're only going to possibly do an 8-game schedule, that is possible. So they could be we can easily put 7 teams. And maybe this is the year they do just a top to bottom and the top 2 teams play each other in the Big Ten title. And, if you only have 8 or 9 teams playing, that's probably the way to do it.
I mean, whatever you have to do to make it work, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And then just to kind of go off of this, so we had Ohio State historian last night, Jack Park. He was saying that he heard from Pete Thamel, which is one of the guys we've given a little hard time to. He's a Yahoo guy. He is again kind of going off of what this was, the whole Dinich article. Put up a positive thing on Facebook. We shared it on our Facebook page. So if head over there to read it. But basically, he said a lot of the same thing that was in the Dinich article, that we could be getting to play here in mid-October. And again, this Jack Park is well connected within the program. I mean, he's got high sources within Ohio State football. So I know he said Pete Thamel said that, but I'm assuming he's also confirmed that through a couple people within the university.
Yeah, no, it's big news. It's big news for everybody. So, I mean, with him and Heather both reporting this, it seems like I said, it's positive. It's all good that at least they're going to sit down and listen to what they have to say because, not too long ago, but time's been flying. So a couple weeks at this point, we weren't revisiting this at all. So it's a good thing that they're going to sit down and listen to these guys because they do have to come up with a plan how to get back on the field. So October 17th sounds like it would be the absolute earliest. That's what we're pushing for. That's what we want.
Yeah. So that was pretty much, I think,
that was
we've
our last couple of days.
Yeah.
I was going to say our week. It's been 2 days since the last time we recorded.
Yeah. So, we're going to get into part 5 of the Super League.
Let's talk about our Super League.
All right. Since we didn't hit it on the last episode, part 5 of the Super League. So this is the last 2 divisions. I think I'm going to do these 2 together because they fit so with each other. So I'm going to start with the most southeastern one of the bunch. The Florida, Georgia division. So I'm doing the University of Florida, Florida State, Miami, Central Florida, Georgia, and Georgia Tech. The reason why I chose Georgia Tech in there, because they were really the last team out, is I wanted another team from that region. I think Georgia Tech has had success through the years, and I think they could recruit in this. It would be a lot of rival games for them. Not only are you playing Georgia, but you're playing 4 Florida schools that are all in your backyard. Georgia Tech has beaten people over the years at different times. So they can get players. They're in Atlanta. A lot of people love Atlanta. They can recruit their city. So. And then before we get into this, thought process, because I'll say the other one too, and the other one is, so it's the Mid-Atlantic kind of. So this one is Clemson, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, Tennessee, and South Carolina.
Okay.
And the reason why Tennessee and South Carolina gets moved out of the SEC is just because geographically this makes sense. I think both teams, I love to give both their fan bases a hard time that they love basically they give you crap for what Alabama does. It's like they mention the SEC more than any of the SEC fans do. And
or South Carolina beating 2 of the worst Ohio State teams in the last 20 years.
Yeah, so I don't want to hear, but they like to throw that stuff out there. Tennessee's still living off of Peyton Manning and T. Martin's national championship, and
that's over 20 years.
Yeah, Ohio State's had 2 titles since then. So
right,
So just your thoughts on both of these. So
Tennessee and South Carolina fans, they irk me too. Man. I never realized how much, but yeah, they think they're like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And like you said, they're living off a T. Martin championship that was, they were so lucky Ohio State loses that game to Michigan State that year because Ohio State would have throttled anybody in the national title game.
Yeah, they would have destroyed Tennessee.
No, and they would have destroyed Florida State. Who they get in their bowl game? A&M.
Yeah, they destroyed them.
They killed A&M. Yeah, Ohio State was the only team that really they could have beat Tennessee that year, and I think they would have beat them easily. So that year was a shame, but we're talking 22 years now. It just seems like it was yesterday. Okay. Thoughts. One, I'm excited to see how many games UCF loses because I'm tired of those guys too. So I'm excited to see what happens with them. How many games are they going to lose? Are they going to be bottom feeders now? Constantly in the basement of that division, but where they're located and they have a ton of students there, being a bigger conference, what kind of prospects, what kind of athletes are coming to their school now? Who doesn't want to go party at Disney when you're not at college?
Yeah, they got some. Yeah.
Oh my God! Katie, she would love that.
Yeah. Orlando's a big city. It's a growing city.
You get to hang out with the mouse all the time.
It's kind of Columbus. It's pretty much, but just in cities in general, it's the Columbus of Florida. It's
Yeah. It's jokes aside. So I think that's a huge appeal for big kids.
I mean, they have 60,000.
Big
They have
recruits.
roughly 60,000 students. It might be a little bit over that now.
They're the biggest
they've
college in the country, correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
So-
they made that thing a couple years ago. But I think UCF being in big boy football is kind of like how a lot of people feel in Ohio, in the Columbus area, if Cincinnati was. And,
Yeah.
these guys, I'm not saying they're going to beat you. I'm not going to say they're going to out-recruit you anywhere, but it's something, you don't want another big university in your backyard. And that would be fourth university. I mean, Miami's kind of like in their own, but that affects Miami too. I mean, when you think of when you watch the U on 30 for 30, I mean, that's the state of Miami when it's Tampa to Daytona and south, I mean, Orlando's right in there. So,
Yeah. It would definitely hurt for those Orlando kids. Gut feeling though, going in season 1, season 2, season 3, is UCF, and let's not put the whole 6 in there for this. State of Florida, UCF towards the best team in Florida, or are they towards the worst team in Florida?
I think they're in the middle. They're the 3.
You think they're 2 or 3?
Yeah. If I was going to rank them, I think it's Florida State.
I don't know. I don't know about Florida State.
Right now, I'm still more bullish on Florida State than I am on
The U?
The U.
Yeah, I know.
The U has just been, I don't know.
They just seem lost.
They have the talent, and maybe Diaz is still there, right?
Yeah, Manny Diaz is still their coach.
Maybe he'll start really putting them back on the map. I mean, I love joking with people. You get your U fans every now and then. I mean, all 6 of them that talk about
the pass interference.
The pass interference, even though Gamble was also pass interfered on that last play of the Ohio State's regulation, and still caught the ball. And if a replay would have overturned that, they called it incomplete. He was held twice.
If you're gonna go on one play when you were supposed to beat us by 3 scores, give me a break on that.
Yeah.
And again, like you were saying, that game should have never went to overtime. Gamble's held 2 times and he still catches the ball inbounds, and they
dragging both feet. So
right. Yes, and I know it's an NFL catch too.
Yeah.
So no, I don't want to hear that garbage. They lost that game. Get over it.
Yeah. So, but when you watch the U, especially the first part of, I was obviously in the 80s. I was too young to really appreciate that, especially in the later 80s. But and then in the 90s, I do remember some games in the 90s and stuff like that. I actually remember, I think the first college football game I ever watched was when Alabama beats them in '92 in the bowl game. I believe it's in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's just a different type of. They were fun, and I love those videos. I want the U back just for that. It seems like they had a lot of fun on the football field.
Well, when teams like that are good, Florida State's, Miami's, it makes college football better.
Yeah. So
we need to get away from this. Only 4 teams legitimately have a chance for a title.
Yeah. I think both UCF and Georgia Tech could be competitive in this. They're going to be most likely the odds-on. They're the last 2 teams.
Yeah.
But like I said, I try to put teams in it that I felt deserved it and were within the same geographic region with each other. That's the reason why I put Tennessee and South Carolina up in Clemson's thing. Clemson's still the favorite, obviously, to win this.
How do they keep, even ACC and now this, it's like they just draw ways to go undefeated.
But Tennessee playing them every year, that's a potential loss.
Well, Virginia Tech's in there?
And Virginia Tech, they still play Virginia Tech, but the Virginia Tech's in there, that's a potential loss.
Go over that conference with me again, or division.
It's Clemson, UNC, NC State, Virginia Tech, Tennessee, and South Carolina.
Where did Virginia rank in there?
They were close. The ones that I are really, and this kind of goes for both, that probably my next 2 are either Kentucky or Louisville.
Okay.
And then Virginia's a little bit of a step below that, I would say.
I might have said Louisville over NC State.
Yeah, that was one of the discussion points too.
Or Kentucky. I might have said one of those two over NC State.
NC State and Virginia Tech actually were and the only reason why I still have Virginia Tech in there is just I'm not sure yet where they're at now that Beamer's been gone for a few years.
Yeah,
and I think they still have they live in a great talent rich area. Plus they've always recruited well between they've always recruited around the DMV area.
Well, and I think what Beamer did for that program, they still want to be winners. So
yeah, so
I think that's a big factor into the decision making when they bring in new coaches, things like that, is that they have that success. They want to continue it. So he put that program
and
further ahead than what Virginia Tech probably should be. So that's something that they're going to keep trying to be winners.
And the reason why I went with NC State is that they've had successful years.
They play everybody close. So I know they play good games.
They do get good talent. The talent's getting better in the North Carolina, South Carolina area. There's a lot of population movement into that area. So they're in an area that they can recruit. They can get good players. I mean, are they Clemson? No. Are they North Carolina? No. But they can play games against those teams.
I mean, I would say right now, if you're only going off a couple of years, that North Carolina might be better than North Carolina State. That's more up in the air. Those two teams against each other.
You don't know when the next cheating scandal is going to be in Chapel Hill. So
I hope Matt keeps it clean over there.
So
I can agree with both of them. I'm not sure about NC State being in there. Georgia Tech, rivalry wise, proximity to where the other schools are, Georgia Tech does make sense to me because they are still a big college. So I can get behind that one.
NC State. I mean, they are a big university.
Yeah, and I can get behind it.
And Raleigh is another growing area. That's kind of the reason why I put them in there. I also like some of those rivalries. I mean, I think North Carolina has a much bigger rivalry with North Carolina State when it comes to football. It's again, we were looking at this as strictly as a football conference. That's why schools like Duke and Kentucky are not really in this. I mean, if we were looking at if it's an all sports type thing, those kind of get redrawn based off of that because Duke and
NC State has decent basketball years.
They're
not always terrible in the ACC. I think a lot of this is just having an open mind, also not only to where a team is now or what they were historically, but what they could be just based off of proximity to the other teams in their league, what the recruiting bed's like, moving up into some sort of super conference where you're going to get the best kids in the country who are going to want to play on this because they're going to be on a tier that's above what the FBS is right now.
Yeah, and there's still going to be scholarship limits. This isn't separating anything from Title IX. So those universities, even if their other sports are in other conferences, they still have to follow federal laws and stuff like that. So you're still going to have your limits, and and like you just said, there's only so many of these teams now. There's only 48 of them, so the best.
It's actually,
talent's gonna.
That's kind of interesting because you're gonna get kids that are 4-star that they might have went to some other school. They might have went to Purdue because they're going to be the man at Purdue, but now they're going to go to Nebraska or whatever because that's the best competition. That's where they're going to be featured the most. That's the best for their draft stock. So it's definitely interesting because these teams, they're going to be loaded because the NC States that they might be getting 3 stars. Well, now they're getting 4 stars because those kids they need to go there to be displayed like this.
Yeah, Clemson doesn't want them. North Carolina might not want them. So a good quarterback might be like a 4-star quarterback. I'll go play for NC State. I live in this area. My parents can come watch me play, and there can only be one quarterback playing every game for every team. So
and this definitely drives it to being more like what we want, more so like the NFL. That you're going to get more parity. You're not just going to have the same 4 teams every year winning titles. Of course, I say that in how many Super Bowls the New England Patriots played in the last 20 years.
You're still going to get dynasties. It's just going to be a little harder in different spots, and there's I mean, and we'll get into the part 6.
Three of the same.
The next episode. We're going
Right.
to get into how the playoffs are going to get broken down because I got some interesting thoughts on that.
You don't think we're going to see the same 3 teams in the playoffs though every year for like 4
No.
years?
Because, first of all, there's going to be 8 teams in the playoff because, I mean, and you're still going to have to, I mean, I'll break, a little bit, but we'll get more into it next week. I mean, you're still going to have to play a divisional championship game.
Right.
And you're still going to be playing a 18 playoff then. The 8 teams go. But we'll get more into that in the next episode, in the next part. But I think these are 8 good, fair. Some of them are more top heavy than others, or top to bottom heavier than others. But I think they're all well balanced.
Yeah.
And again, as I throw in every week, yes, maybe you can say, well, man, Clemson only has to beat North Carolina,
But they gotta play
State,
the whole
Tennessee,
other
South
division.
Carolina, and Virginia Tech. Well, first of all, any one of those games, Clemson has lost to Syracuse. I mean, they've had tough games at different times against some of these schools. They could lose one of these schools, but they're also they might also then be playing Alabama and Auburn and LSU,
Or
and
Ohio State and Michigan
Yeah.
and Penn State in the same season.
yeah. So I mean, there's because of how it's broken down and it's balanced, you're still playing good schools from around the country.
Right.
So I think that was a good episode.
I'm good with that. I don't really, as far as like closing thoughts or anything, I'm gonna keep saying it. Keep fighting for a season. We want to watch Ohio State football. Just get vocal. Call who you need to call. Fight like hell. We want a game sooner than later.
And I will just plug the channels one more time. Just remember, subscribe to YouTube, hit the all notifications, like this video, please. We want to start seeing comments. We really want to interact with our community members, and don't feel afraid to share the videos on all your networks. I mean, if you want to share the video to your Facebook page, go right ahead. We're on Facebook. Come see us at the Buckeye Bar Talk, which is our page. The Buckeye Bar Talk community is the group. You can write your own post within the group and come join us, and come see us on Twitter at Buckeye Bar Talk. Instagram's also at Buckeye Bar Talk. We're all over the podcast feeds right now. We're growing. We're steady. We like where we're at. We want to interact more, and we want to. This idea is, like we've always said, that this is it's your digital sports bar. So you come and we talk sports. We talk and we have talk about college football, the Buckeyes. You want to come on, and if you see something cool in one of the games today, share it.
Let's hear about it.
We'll talk about it. We want to interact, and we're all over all of our feeds, and we're paying attention. And the couple comments we get, we talk back to them. We have a good time. So we definitely want to interact more with you guys. So please come on down.
Yep. Thanks for stopping out at the Buckeye Bar today. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
I hope. Well, thank you for watching here, the Buckeye Bar guys, here on the Buckeye Bar Talk network. Please subscribe to the network, and when you get the little notification bell, just hit that. Hit all notifications. That way you'll get alerted when all the new episodes come up. Comment, like the show, and we hope you join our community. Come join our bar.
Like, comment, share. I'm John. That's Mike. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.